Hey everybody, I'm Alan Noon, Dev Relations Tech Artist for Epic Games. Thank you for joining the stream today. So we are going to be looking at creating a side scroller yet again. Many moons ago, we started down this road working on this project. I think it was actually last June or so. So this project is a good 6-7 months old. I have a little bit of bad news. I don't believe that the project that exists where we left it last time. If I recall, we had done something with like some hit flashes and what have you, and the version of the project that I have on the machine now, on the stream machine here, seems to be an older one. So we're gonna have to backtrack a little bit. We'll take a look and see what's broken, fix it up, and then I think instead of going through some sort of session that I've pre-prepared, we'll jump straight to questions and start going through those, and we're gonna kind of improvise today. So, all right, first things first. We've got the old project here, and if I go ahead and hit play, yes, I love the guitar. All right, so we can move around, we can step up on the ledge, we can shoot. Looks like he's sliding around, which is not cool. Jumping appears to be broken, so real quick, let's fix that stuff. Alrighty, and yes, we called him BP Dude. And maybe let's take a look at our jump. I believe we have a jump set up. Let's look at project settings. And I'm going to go into input. Yeah, we have a jump, so we can go ahead and build off of that. So we'll say jump. There's our action event right there. And since we are using the character movement component, we can just rely on the jump function. We don't have to go ahead and build our own thing. So if we take a look at our character movement component, you'll see we've got all of these settings, and somewhere in here is a value for jump, jump Z velocity. So that's going to be how high the guy jumps. So this should just automatically work. There we go. Okay, obviously he's not doing his jump animation, so let's fix that. All right, so if you recall, we kind of, we set up our own animation state machine. Now in Paper 2D, we don't have access to the functionality of the animation blueprint as we do with a skeletal animation system. So we had set up somewhere in here, here we go, we had an enum of character states, running, jumping, so on and so forth. And it looks like here, if we switch to jumping, we are going to play the jump animation. So all we really have to do at this point is go back to our jump, wherever we put that. And we're going to call that, hold on, sorry, let's scroll back up. We've got a custom event called update animation. So we can just go ahead and call that. So we'll say update animation. And he should, oh, we'll probably need to set his state. So let's get his state and we'll set it as jumping. Jumping, please. Okay, so hopefully that just works. Yay, all right, awesome. Okay, next thing, shooting. He was sliding around, which is not cool. So I think what we want to do is every time he takes a shot, he's going to stay put. I think previously we had actually done some running and shooting, but let's go ahead and just do it this way for now. So let's find shooting in here somewhere, input action shooting. So this is where we spawn our shot and our actual shot here, and we're updating the animation. So let's go ahead and stop movement immediately. Well, let's get a reference to our, not sure if we actually need this. Let's try it out. Stop movement immediately. And put that right back in. Okay. So now he should kind of do like a real stuttery type of slide, a little bit slower. And let's go ahead and create a new variable here called can move. All right. So let's drag that in and we'll get that. Zoom in there, gonna make a branch. We're using that in a moment. Okay, so first thing we want to do is let's set this to false. Okay, and we'll take this little piece of code down here. We need to put that up in our movement, which I believe is up there. And this is where we're going to stick our branch. This will turn off movement. So if he can move, we're all good to go. If he can't, he's going to do nothing. So we're going to want to turn movement back on at the end. So we've got a little bit of a delay here. So we're going to send him, this looks like a decent spot, I think, to go ahead and turn his movement back on again. So what happens, let's walk through this, see if this makes sense. We press, and we're going to turn off movement. We do a little debug there. We don't need that anymore. We're going to spawn the shot. We're going to set him to shooting mode. We're going to stop his movement, and then we'll update the animation. So that's our little state machine up there. He should play the shooting animation. Okay, so now once it's released, we have a half-second delay before we go back to standing, and then we're going to re-enable movement. So let's see if this all works. Okay, so he's moving around, we fire, he stops. All right, so for the most part, that looks like that works. So now if I spam the fire button, he's gonna be locked in place. I let go, half a second later, he's back to business. And so we could totally tune this delay here, and if we wanted a little more response, we could make that shorter or whatever. But I think for the most part, those were like the big broken items. Looks like he's starting out in some running motion there, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. Let's see, what else? We did also have, let's see, you know what? We want to default this. Let's see. Oh, let's clear our filter. There we go. Okay, so now right off the bat, he should, there we go. That's the problem. There we go. Okay, so his default state is can move, so everything should be working fine. The other thing we did was we had damage, and it looks like we got some pretty wild values on that. There we go, that one kind of worked. He's playing the wrong animation there. Yeah, all right. Anyway, more interesting things to do. Let's go ahead and look at some of the questions, because a lot of these keep recurring on the forums and in the comments to some of the previous videos. So let's jump over. The first one that we see here on the list is, I was wondering, for Paper 2D, what would be the right size for bringing in character textures and sprites for a modern game that is 1080p? Working on a 2D isometric game, artist is sending sprites for the character, but at certain distances from the character, the sprite loses detail and gets blurry. The distances that cause this, not much more than 1 or 2 steps from previous position. So it's difficult to say what exactly is going wrong without digging into your project, but probably the first thing I would look at is your map settings. Now, in this particular project that we've been working with here, well, let's turn off engine content, clean this up. All right, so we have a sprite. If you recall, way back when we first generated these sprites, we configured the sprite sheet for Paper 2D settings, okay? And this used to be called Apply Retro 2D Settings or something or other. And basically what it does is disable bitmaps and filtering and all that other good stuff. So you always get pixel perfect, razor crisp images. Now, depending on what type of game you're doing, that might not make a lot of sense. So, if you're doing by the sounds of it, it says you're doing a 1080p game. I'm assuming high-res art, perhaps it's even, in a painterly style or pre-rendered style, like a Vanillaware game, for example, like Dragon's Crown, so on and so forth. Maybe retro or the Paper 2D sprite settings don't make sense. However, not entirely. If we go in and let's go look at our textures here. This is the texture editor. So we can take a look at LOD bias. I'm going to hazard a guess and say maybe this is part of the problem. So if we go ahead and set this, you'll want to set this down to a negative number, and basically what that'll do is force the bitmaps that are being rendered to a higher resolution. So try fooling with that, see if you get the results you're looking for. and report back on the forum. Again, hard to say without totally seeing the project, but that's where I'd start. Okay, so several AI questions. We'll read the first one off here. How to set up a somewhat smart enemy that on top of simple tracking, the player can also jump over obstacles and over pits. I assume the enemy can also jump over obstacles or over pits to get to the player. Let's see, I'll read another one here. Some AI tips would be cool, especially since nav mesh bounds volume doesn't work with sprites. And let's see, how can we make an enemy that can destroy and attack us? All right, so all of those AI related. Yeah, so a lot of the AI tutorials that we supply are for 3D environments, particularly with characters using the character movement component. And the nav mesh really works well for those sort of 3D spaces. Now, when using Paper 2D, it really is still a 3D environment. So we could potentially, if we gave these things, let's go to a perspective view here. If we gave this world a bit of depth and actually, shelled out some geometry, we could potentially use the nav mesh there to guide an enemy AI. And, we would have to constrict it to a plane in order to make it, sort of stay within the 2D world and look that we're trying to go for. You could do that, but it might be overkill. And in the case of this particular game, we're doing very much a retro style thing. Enemy behaviors are very simple. So for example, we might have a small character that hides under a shell, and if you're a certain distance away or facing the opposite direction, it opens up and fires at you. If you get close, then it shuts down and hides. Now, we probably don't have to go through the whole blackboard system, and in order to create that, I would probably just approach that very simply. It's a very sort of one-off special behavior for that particular enemy. So I would have some sort of radius on it that when the character overlapped, it would create this behavior that played a different animation, turned off collisions on the bullets, or ricocheted the bullets off, so on and so forth. Really, a lot of this stuff I found when I'm making my own personal projects is very special case stuff. Let's see, there was another question. What about the enemy jumping over obstacles and over pits? Yeah, that's going to be a little bit more tricky. Several different ways to go about it. You might want to have several, helper class objects at the edge of a pit, so when your AI gets to it, it's going to automatically jump over it. You could, impart a velocity on the enemy's character capsule and have it jump over. You could force it to a spline. You could do several different things there. Similar to like a patrol, for example, as well. Again, we have lots of examples of 3D characters, 3D worlds using nav mesh where we're setting up points. We could do something similar without going through the whole nav mesh deal, where within the enemy character, we have some public variables, vectors, and those will act as positions in the world, and we can have the character, lurk between those two positions, and then again, if the player character overlaps some awareness volume, some collision volume, then we could trigger new behaviors there. So yeah, at some point we should probably I'll go and prepare some examples of this. We won't get into it today because, again, a lot of this stuff is like really special case, and I think probably the best thing to do would be to make 3 or 4 different enemies that we can show different approaches with. All right, and let's see, setting up ladders for Paper 2D. All right, so let's see if we can't hammer something out here. Let's create a new type of blueprint, and it's going to be an actor class, and we'll call this our ladder. And let's see, we'll put a sprite component on this. Let's see what we have in terms of sprites. We can use anything really, but I think I've got, yeah, this might be faster just to browse from here. I'm thinking of this guy here. Let's go ahead and stuff that in there. And make that a little bit more narrow. There we go. And a little bit taller. Oh, wrong axis. All right, and then from the front, I'm just going to go ahead and move that up. Yeah, let's make this the base so we can get rid of that big ball there. Okay, close enough. All right, and yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this with put a collision volume on this. Box collision should work fine. And we'll go ahead and scale that. Like so. Okay, it doesn't really matter how wide it is over here, but that's a little excessive. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and drop that into the world. And of course it's going to snap back there. Let's go to a front view. Looks like it did not respect my scaling, that's fine. Keep hitting the wrong key on this keyboard. There we go. That's better. Alrighty. So, on our player, we need to know whether or not we can climb. So we'll just do this with can climb. And we'll default that to off. And we'll go back and edit this. And we'll say if we overlap this component, the box, begin overlap, the actor that we're overlapping, we will make sure that it is our dude. And if it is, we'll set his climb to true. All right, then back on our guy here, let's go back to our jump. And we're going to use the same key. So we'll say if this is true, so if it's false, he's going to go ahead and jump. And then if it's true, we're going to go ahead and move him up. So let's see, we'll probably, what's the best way to do this? Let me think about this for a second. So if we go up, we want to move him up. We want to add some input to him. Let's go ahead and add location offset. Actually, I think I'm going to be, this might actually be easier with a tickable component that's ticking. Let's double up on our inputs here real quick. This, let's see, where are our settings, project settings, input, move right. So we'll call this up, I guess. This will be W. Okay, so I'm basically duplicating jump and W here. Up and jump on the W key, so that if I'm going to use up, I probably should have called that something a little bit smarter. Let's go back there. We'll call it move up. Move up. Okay, axis event. There we go. And let's go ahead and let's multiply that by a float. And then we'll promote this. This will be climb climb speed. And let's go ahead and split that. Okay. Actually, I think let's put this in here. All right, that's a little bit ugly. Let's see if that works. Oh, yeah. Right, because this is actually, so access events are always polling the input device, right? So we can very quickly, let's go ahead and put a little dampening on this. So we'll say if this is greater or equal to 0.1, let's go ahead and branch that. I'll explain what I'm doing here in a second. All right, this keyboard is screwing me up to 0.1. There we go. Okay, all right, so let's explain what was happening there. You saw that my guy was jumping automatically. So again, when you set up an access input event, the that access is constantly being read, and even if you are not putting any input through it, like with a W key or some other key, whatever, it's constantly reading that, and it's getting some value through. So it's always being read. So basically what I'm doing here is, you know, the key is binary, and what I've done is said any input that's less than 1/10, then just totally ignore it. We're not going to do anything. That's false, right? Otherwise, if we go over that value, it's automatically going to jump to 1 because we bound it to the W key. Then it's going to come up to this condition up here, and then we're going to start adding this offset. All right, so because we cannot yet climb, or false, it's going to jump every time we do that. We probably don't even need this guy anymore. All right. Okay, so now let's see, we should go into climb mode. Let's see, am I colliding with that? I think I'm colliding with him. Let's look at our ladder. And we'll say just overlap. Maybe we should get rid of him too. That'd be a little bit easier to get to our ladder. Okay, so now we're over it. So now we're jumping. And it's moving us up. Let's look back here and see what we're doing. So climb speed, the delta location, so we're adding that offset there. So we're multiplying that. Actually, I think what we want to do is add, oh no, let's see. Climb speed is 0. So let's turn that to like 2. So now we're actually adding something. All right, let's think about this. So add actor offset. So we come in, we're going up, we're getting our value. If that's true and we can climb, then we're going to go ahead and start climbing. Let's make sure, did we even set this up over here? We want to set that to true. There we go. Hopefully that will do us right. Okay. All right, so something different going on there. Let's go back to our dude and see if we can debug what's going on. Lots of print statements all the time. So let's take a look at this value coming out of here. So 2. And we're adding the actor offset. Perhaps we want to turn off physics for a moment. Because I wonder if it's just not, you know what, let's crank this up real quick here. Because I wonder if he's just not escaping the gravity pulling it down. Yeah. So we're going to have to find the magic number here. Still too crazy. Nice binary search. All right, so let's see if we made that. So probably what we want to do at the end as well is at the very top of the ladder, we'll probably want another collision component to go ahead and turn off the climbing ability. So when you actually exit, he can actually run around. So anyway, just off the top of my head, that would be one way that I might approach it. I want to move on to something else a little more interesting because I think it's pretty important to game development in general. So there was a question, how to set up a world map where you can select which level to play by clicking on a level icon. Okay, this I think is very important. Before my life at Epic, I did indie games for a while, and one of the things that I learned is that, well, two of the things that I learned, if you're looking for awareness on your game, there are two things that you can do in order to get the word out there. One of them is include a screenshot of a campfire in your game, and then the other one is show off your map. People love maps for whatever reason. I think it psychologically gives them the impression that there's this world to explore and there's lots to discover. So maps, very important. So let's go ahead and see if we can't create one. Now, there's a couple different ways to go about this, and I think we'll do a nice simple one first, and then depending on time, maybe we can flesh it out and try a couple of different things, a couple of different implementations. So let's go ahead and make a new map. And let's go ahead, I'm going to do it from here. We'll say new level, and we'll just use the default. Go ahead and save that, that's fine. And I'm going to Control S. Let's see. Okay. Go to our maps folder, and this is going to be our map. Just going to do this from the perspective view, and we don't need our player start here. I'm going to create a whole new game mode for this and a new pawn because it's very specific to the actual map itself. We're not going to piggyback off of anything that we've done on the in-game character, so to speak. So first things first, let's go ahead and create a new. We'll start with a game mode, I guess. Go to our world settings, and from our game mode, maybe we'll put that in here so we can find it. This will be our map game mode, and we're going to want a pawn, and this will be our map pawn. All right, back over here in world settings, we'll switch over to our map pawn. All right, so let's go ahead and set this up. So first thing, I think we'll just use a billboard component so we can see what we're doing in the world here. So I'm going to turn off hidden in game. We'll add a spring arm, and add a camera. So what I'm building here is, again, not specific to Paper 2D or 3D. It's sort of general purpose. I think how I would approach this is if I was doing this, I would do this very much the same way, whether it was 2D or 3D. I would just probably change the camera type to orthographic and then make sure, you know, that my art is all, I'm using Sprite components on my pieces of art in the actual game. So this is sort of a general purpose type of thing, not specific to Paper 2D. All right, spring arm, let's go ahead and turn off collision test. Rotate that up a bit so we're kind of looking sort of top-down-ish on things. And I'm going to drop that into the world, just anywhere is fine. And from the details panel, this is all, let's move this around, this is all crazy. There we go. That's better. All right, so we will possess automatically and we will receive input. All right, so if we go ahead and play, there we are. You can see our little target dinosaur head there. So yeah, this obviously, this nice grid here is going to be our map. And we need some locations to go to. So I'm going to create a new blueprint class, actor class, and we'll call this a location. Yeah, that's fine. No, let's not call it location. There's too much other stuff in the engine that refers to location. We'll call this point of interest. And I guess, yeah, we'll use the Sprite component for this. And we can just pick anything. Let's see if there's something that's mildly relevant. What do we got? All right, well, this is a health kit, but we're going to use it. Okay, very good. And we're going to need to know, so these are going to be our map locations, and we're going to drop several of them down into the world. And we're going to need to know which maps we're headed to once we've selected one of these bad boys. So I'm going to create a variable, and this will be the actual level that we're going to open. We'll say level to open, and that is going to be a variable of the name type. Very good. And let's go ahead and we'll just drop like 3 or 4 of those down. You know what? Again with this. Let's change that up. Okay, and some minor adjustments here. Let's go to the front view. Oh, sure. All right. Is there, can I add if I add a new scene component, do I get rid of the big ugly ball? That's better. Okay, so now this the sprite should be sitting right in the world there, and then we can scale it independently if we need to. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, and you know what? Let's fill out a default for this. So which levels do we actually have? I think I typically call it level 0. Yeah. So if we don't specify a new level, it's just going to always default to our paper 2D level that we already have working. All right. So there's one, and I'm just going to alt drag a few more of these out. Alrighty. Now back on our pawn, where are you? Let's go ahead and edit our pawn. So there's probably a few different ways that we can, what we want to do is create an array of our locations, and then we're just going to basically cycle through them and pop between each one. And we could go ahead and gather up those locations with a couple of different methods. We could get all actors by class, by location type, and that would do it. But it might be more interesting to just go ahead and manually specify. So these are the point of interests. And this is going to be a public variable, and they're going to be of the point of interest type, and it's going to be a reference to the actual actors that we've placed in the world. So now, let's see, where are you? Points of interest. There they are. Oh, we want to make that an array. That would help. Array. There we go. So we have 3. So let's go ahead and click on those. So now we can specify the order in which we're going to cycle through them. A little bit more, a little bit finer degree of control there. Naturally, I select them out of order, but that's fine. All right. And I think on our pawn, the first thing that we're going to do in the event graph is on, well, so we have our array. We need to know which is the current point of interest, and that's going to be an index. All right, so the very first thing we do on begin play is let's go ahead and grab our array of points, and we're going to get the first one. And we'll get the location of it. Get actor, location. And then we're going to set our own location. So set location, set actor location, and we'll just pop that right into there. So with any luck, we're going to begin play, and well, it's hard to tell because our sprites are kind of rotated the wrong way. Let's go ahead and look at our points of interest, take our paper sprite, and we'll have those face forward. Wonderful. Let's go to perspective view. Oh, come on, mouse. You're fighting with me. All right, and we'll scale these up. And again, we'll tweak them so that we can position it properly. Let's go to left view. All right, that's better. All right, those are slightly larger, and yeah, there we go. So now we can actually see them. You could probably tilt these down if you wanted to, make it a little bit prettier. Hold up. Let's look for a post-process volume. Do we have one? Nope. So on our character, let's go to our part. That adaptation is pretty irritating for our purposes here. So post-process settings, auto exposure. Let's just go ahead and say, I think if we go ahead and just turn that to 0, that should be fine, right? Yikes, no, horrible. There we go, all right. Okay, great. So we have our pawn, he's snapping to the first location in the array, and now we want to actually cycle through the actual points of interest. So let's take a quick look at our controls again, see what we have set up. So move right, shoot. I'm just going to call this cycle forward, and we'll make another one for cycle back. That on, let's do both of these. And cycle back is going to be S. And also if you cycle left, that'd be the A key. So now you have two different ways to kind of cycle through these. All right, back to our pawn. Let's get rid of our ladder. And we don't need our dude pawn. We need our map pawn. Okay, so forward. So cycle forward. All right, let's get the, this does not need to be an array. That needs to be an integer. So let's get this, and then we're going to just increment it. And then we're going to go ahead and set this. And then from our array, our points of interest, let's go ahead and get and then we can get the location, much like we did in the beginning on begin play, and then we're going to set actor location. Like so. Okay, so we're going to see something interesting here. So we're currently on 0, and then I cycle forward and to the end. So actually, you know, let's go ahead and group these a little bit closer together so they're a little bit easier to see. All right. Cool. 1, 2, 3, and okay. So we get to the end, and we're off in space. So we want to account for that. So before all this, let's move this down a little bit. I don't need this ginormous details panel. We'll get this, and we'll say if this is greater than the, well, numbers all over the place, so I'm just going to duplicate this. So let's say this is the length, -1. So that'll get us the last integer there. And I'm going to just hit B and create a branch. Okay, so if we're greater than the number of entries in the list of list of points of interest array, then we're going to go ahead and set this back to 0. Okay, we don't need this way off in space. If not, we're just going to go ahead and jump right to there, like so. And I think that should do it. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. All right, cool. That's all working. Let's try to tidy this up a little bit. So we can follow our flow somewhat. Okay, that's a bit better. All right, and then we also had cycle back, right? So we'll just quickly implement that. Cycle back. I'm going to duplicate all of this, select all these things, copy, paste. All right, but instead of adding, we're going to subtract. Not a float. How about an integer? Overlooking it. There it is. Come on. All right, and then if actually we don't need this right here. If we are lower than 0, less than, then I'm just gonna, well, since we're up here, length -1. Okay, so that should wrap back around the other direction. Let's hit play, going up and going back down. Okay, so now we're cycling left and right, up and down through all these things. Yeah, left and right works as well. And if we wanted to add more points, we'd just go ahead and drop them into the world, and then from our pawn, actually out here, there's our pawn, map pawn, we would just go ahead and add those to the array. And so now we need to take off to the new level. So remember, we defaulted to, let's take a look at our point of interest here, level to open. Let's make that public. So there we go. We only have one level right now. Well, let's go ahead and remedy that. Let's duplicate this. Oh, I can't. Actually, let's save this whole map. I used to be able to duplicate levels, but now I think we need to go ahead and do save as. Do we have a post process in here? Nope. Or do we? No. Let's go ahead and drop one in real quick. Post process volume, throw that in, and I'm going to make it unbound, and I'll save, well, let's see. Scene color tint, just so that we can see, what we're doing. This is going to be the red level. So let's save that, and then I'm going to save as. This will be level 1, and let's change this color to green. So again, Control S to save, and then we'll also do a save as, and this will be level 2. And we'll do blue, of course. So that way we have a bit of visual differentiation. So level 2. All right, very good. Back to our map. So he's going to default to level 0. He'll be level 1. And this is going to be level 2. All right, back to our pawn. Again, let's take a look at our inputs, project settings, input, jump, shoot. Okay, sure, we can piggyback off a shoot. That'll work. So as you're a map pawn, if you go ahead and hit shoot, which should be tied to the left mouse button, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the current point of interest. Let's get this. We're going to get that actor. And we're going to reach down in and get the level that we're going to open, get level open. And it's going to be an immediate jump, but we'll say open level. And where's our action? There it is. Slide this stuff around a little bit. Save and compile. Okay, so let's go ahead and play. We're cycling around, and let's go to the blue level. So now if I hit fire, we're in the blue level. Sweet. And of course, let's go to the green level. Click the button. Now we're in the green level. Okay, so that was a fairly simple implementation of a map screen there. We could do a few more things that are a little more complex, but I'm not sure how much time we actually have. I'm thinking like a Super Mario Brothers type of level where we have pathways from level to level. I guess we could, we don't have anyone coming in after us, do we? All right, let's roll with this. So, should we make a new one? Yeah, let's make a new. Nah, we'll build off of this. All right, so let's think about how we want to do this. So what I'm thinking is each point of interest will have we'll have 4 directions that it could potentially go. And then depending on how we lay out the map, we may restrict the valid paths for that particular point of interest. So we need to know which other points of interest are around us. So let's do this. Let's make point of interest north. I'm just going to restrict this to the 4 cardinal points on the compass, because that's kind of how, like, I'm thinking of Super Mario Brothers 3, right? And this needs to be a point of interest. And it's a reference, and it'll be public. So let's go ahead and duplicate that, and we'll make a south one. And duplicate that. We'll go west and then east. Capital E. Great. All right, so let's get rid of these guys. Yes, yes, yes. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and turn up our snaps for a second here. So I'm just going to lay out a simple grid of these things to start with. Oops. Alt, please. There we go. Maybe like that. So now this guy is going to want to be able to go east. So we're going to pick, did I not pick the right type of, he should be a control point. We don't want a control point. We want a point of interest. Oh, wonderful. I'll do all that again. Sorry, a little bit of typo there. Let's get it fixed up. All right, that'll looks a bit better. All right, so this guy can only travel east. So we'll pick him there, and then this dude is going to be able to go east, and he'll go west. He'll go back the way he came, and he's also able to go north. So you kind of get the idea here. He'll be able to go west, and he'll be able to go north. No, I got the... Did I screw that up? Let's see. East he's going to 3, west he's going to 5, north he's going to 6. Okay, good. Now select him. All right, so he'll be able to go west, back home, and he'll be able to go north up here. Sorry, this is a bit tedious. North, south, and then west. And I think I just need to set this guy up, so he'll go east and south. All right. Okay, so let's say that this one is our, that's going to be our starting position. So let's rename him so we can find him quickly. So we'll just call him point of interest home. All right, then back on our pawn, when we start out, way back up here, let's get, let's see here, how should we go about this? We want the current point of interest. Let's get the actual, I don't think we need an array of these guys anymore, because we're just going to go ahead and switch up from point to point and cycle out. So we'll just reuse this. We'll change the variable type back to a single, and like so. Okay, so in the beginning, we're going to get, let's think here. Oh, where's our pawn? Yeah, we'll make that public. And we'll pick pawn, where are you? Way off in space. So we'll pick our home. There we go. And I think we have to hook something back up here. So the point of interest, there we go. We don't need that. Let's rename this. Okay, so right on begin play, we should snap right to the, what's the problem here? Oh, great. Don't have anything there. Where is our error? Compile. Target array, pin is invalid. Oh, right, because of all this stuff. We don't need any of this. Yeah, this is all just going to be busted for now. You know, let's just scrap all of it. We can keep this. That'll work. Okay. All right, there we go. So we snapped to home. All right, so now when we cycle forward, the first thing we want to do is we're going to move to the right. So let's go ahead and check to see if we can move east. So we're going to get POE east, POI east, and we'll get that location. Get actor location, and then we're going to set our location. So let's see if that works. Okay, great. So now we just need to update. Now we're going to get our current point of interest. Let's set that, sorry. And So there and there. Okay. So now we need to account for the fact that there is no point of interest there. So let's see if, let's do this valid. All right, so if that's true, we'll move on. If not, we're going to do nothing. So let's see if that worked. All right, seems to have worked. All right, so now we just need to go ahead and duplicate this all around. So we did forward and we did back, correct? We need to change up our mappings here. So that's cycle, let's call this move east. And that's going to be on the W key, so we don't need that one. And this is going to be move west. And that's going to be on the A key. So we don't need that. And then we'll need two more for move north. It's going to be W. And another one for move south. All right, that should work. All right, so basically we want to do all of this. Let's get rid of that. This is east. And west. And north. Scooch you out of the way. And south. And then we're just going to duplicate this stuff real quick. You know, we could probably be smarter about this and make a macro or a function to do it, but just kind of on the fly, this is good enough. So what are we doing? We're going west, west. Get that into there. Okay. Right. And north, let's see, move. Oh no, this is point of interest, north, get. Why is it not? Interest. Oh, because I need to drag off. How about that? There we go. Okay, check to see if it's valid, get its location, set the new point, and wire it in. And one more time for south. We're gonna get south, get point south. Ooh, we don't want to set it. It's no good.
Oh, you hit cancel.
What's up with that?
I know. I'm sorry.
Get point south. All right. Let's see if that works. All right, let's go here, up. Oh, no, why did you not work? That left and right works, but north and... Oh, I guess it is working. It's just we can't see our... Let's fix that. That's silly. So our paper sprite. Let's go to our front view and we'll rotate him a little bit. Go into world and just drag him down so he's not floating. Oh, hold on. All right. Awesome. Did it wrong. Whatever. Get the idea. Well, let's fix it. All right. Hopefully that's what we want. There we go. Right, east, west, left, right, north, south, and I'm trying to go east, west here, north, and doesn't work. And south is not working there. What's up with that? Probably didn't put the. Did I give him a south? No. That's why. All right, cool. And then let's see. Our functionality for setting up the level should still work. So we'll just change some of these up. There's gonna be one. I'll just do these two here. Two. Two. Okay, here we go. And let's click. And there we go. All right, so that was an alternate implementation of a map, more of a old school Super Mario Brothers type of thing. Now, I'm just snapping to the position there, but we could lerp if we wanted to and pretty it up. But you know, given the amount of time that we have today, I think that's what we're going to do. Let's take a look at some of the questions real quick again. Let's see. Wondering how hard it would be to implement isometric tile-based setup, much in the style of Diablo or Clash of Clans. Yeah, there are a lot of considerations to take into account for isometric tile-based stuff. You know, particularly if you're doing like hex grids, what are those offsets? How do those things match up? That's probably a larger topic than we'll get into today. Lauren Ridge was speaking about some of the upcoming 2D tutorials she wants to do, and that was one of the topics, was tile-based isometric stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and punt on that and let her handle that one because that's a tricky one. All right, and then finally another question came in. How would I handle the kind of 2D perspective seen in side-scrolling beat-em-up titles like Final Fight Streets of Rage, where the player moves up and down on y-axis into the foreground background? So yeah, probably the easiest thing to do would be to create an actual, much like we have our map here. Let's jump back and take a look at this. If I hit play, there we go. So let's drop our camera down. You know, actually, without screwing everything up, let's duplicate this, and this is going to be our. We'll call this our Brawler pawn. All right, we're not going to be running around the map, so we don't need any of that or any of this. And we don't need to go there. So let's take a look at our spring arm, and that's a little too vertical for our Brawler. So, good grief, what angle am I at? This is all crazy looking. So maybe something more along these lines, and let's take a look at our camera and go ortho. This is going to be quick and dirty. Let's see how this looks. Oh, well, it would help if we set our game mode to Brawler. Let's go ahead and pick our Brawler pawn. All right, let's try this. Let's see if this doesn't look. That's our Brawler pawn, but we are actually possessing this dude right in the level. Okay, yeah, that's pretty horrible looking. I think my camera is kind of like crazy offset or something, so let's see if we can't really quick fix it. So 30 degrees there, that looks good. Why are you all offset? Looks like I've got some yaw going on or something, but anyway. Suffice it to say, I would go probably with ortho style camera, and then for your inputs, again, sorry to keep referring back to this, let's go to our project settings and check out our input. We got a lot of stuff going on here. You've got move right and move up, and we'll go ahead and we'll add another one on here. Alrighty, this will be -1. Okay, so now in your Brawler pawn on your event graph, when we go ahead and move forward, did we call it forward? No, sorry, what did we call it? This is why you should always follow conventions. Move right, move up. Wonderful. So now if we move right, let's go ahead and multiply that by float, and this is going to be our move speed. And we'll add offset, actor, world offset, I guess. Let's go ahead and split this. Drop it. I think we want to go on Y actually, because of the way that we're facing. Let's see if this. Let's see. Did we accept? Let's drop him into the world. All right, and he's going to need to be possessed and also gain input. All right, why aren't you working? Move right. Why aren't you working? That should work. Anyway, whatever. So yeah, basically, you'll set up your pawn instead of jumping. You're just going to be moving into in and out of screen depth, and really it is a 3D world, but by forcing to orthographic and by using the 2D sprites, you're going to get that same look as a 2D brawler. That's probably the easiest and quickest way to do it. Take advantage of that 3D space. You know, it build off of the functionality that Unreal has been built with, and I would, instead of trying to kind of go the hard way and make like a true 2D game, I would leverage the actual third dimension to your benefit. So yeah, and then, you know, collisions at that point, you know, you have your collision volumes and they're hitting on the bodies of the sprites. You can actually have capsules, whatever, so that way that, you know, you don't need to be perfectly lined up on the exact same plane. You know, in those games, there was some amount of fudge factor where, now they were doing it all in 2D, but, you know, you could hit enemies that were offset by you. You know, you don't have to worry about that so much. All the 3D kind of takes care of that for you. So when you're spawning collision volumes and they're overlapping the collision volume of the character, you can register your hits. So yeah, those are all of the questions that I see, unless...
Your move speed is set to 0.
Oh, yeah, right. There we go. All right, you guys should come do the live stream. All right, so let's do move up. You know, the number of times that I've done that, it's typically, what I should do is this. I should get in the habit of saying multiply, and then setting the value there, like so, so that when I go ahead and promote this to move speed vert, now when I compile, it automatically picks that up. So that's just a poor workflow thing on my behalf here. You know, I guess we could actually just pick it back up. We don't want to do that. Let's go ahead. And I think because of the way we're facing, we actually want to go on X. There we go. All right, cool. So there's your beat 'em up movement. I think we have a guy. There he is. And he's probably facing the wrong way. I'll set that. There we go. So there's our dude. We can hide our billboard now. There we go. Cool. And we could get clever, and on that sprite component, we could actually, all the sprite components within our game, if we wanted to, we could make them look at the camera so that they're always perfectly aligned so that we're not actually getting any perspective. We kind of faked it up here with our little locations by angling the actual sprite, but if for some reason we wanted to change that or tune it, it would be nicer to set up some sort of look at controller for that. So every single little tweak wouldn't require us to go back to every single actor and kind of update it. All right, cool. All right, I see Alexander's cursor in the question over here, so I'm wondering if we're getting more questions coming in. I'll give it a few more minutes. Yeah, so while we're waiting to see if more questions come in, probably the other third. Nice, I love the spotlight. Love the effects. Previously, I had worked on a game where I had done a map screen where you had free movement. Actually, it was kind of like this here. I had a cursor that you could actually by using a decal, you could project it down on the ground. So if you had a terrain, you would see the decal sort of, pan across the actual surface. And then with a collision volume on the actual locations and the pawn itself, you could determine which locations were in range and use that as a way to, more of like, instead of snapping from location to location like we did, or restricting it to the cardinal points of the compass in our Super Mario Brothers 3 style map, it was more of like a free roaming sort of deal. That would be another approach that you could provide, just get everything that's within your collision volume and determine which one's the closest, and then pick up the level that you're going to go to and go from there. All right, new question. Yeah, how hard would it be to set movement in the style of Pac-Man, where it is forced 4 directions on a grid, so movement is constant in the same way? So again, probably a few different ways to do that. Might set up a few different flags so that you can only accept one input at a time. So back in the old days, in the days of coin-op on a Pac-Man, the way that those things worked was you had your joystick, and then there were micro switches on each of the points there, and you either, depending on how the game was set up, it was either set to only read one switch at a time, or when arcade operators were converting different games from 8-way to 4-way, they could actually get restrictor plates that would confine the motion, the actual physical motion of the joystick to a particular axis. So you could do the same thing basically virtually with some flags if you wanted to. And then the other thing as well is in a Pac-Man style maze type game, you would have collision on your actual walls of your maze, and so that would keep your character sort of going one way. If he's going down a north-south channel, he's not going to be able to go east-west. It's only when he gets to that junction point will he be able to do that. So yeah, again, as always, half a dozen different ways to do whatever you're trying to do, depending on what that is and the requirements of your particular project. But yeah, I might try just like if we wanted, like right now, if we're looking at our simple pawn here, I can move diagonally because I'm accepting 2 inputs at once. Now, if we were just on an analog stick, we'd get the same result. But we could go ahead and filter that result so that we're only taking the most extreme values off of an analog stick. On a directional pad, it's not so much of an issue because you can only go certain directions. But on a case of a keyboard where you can input multiple at once, like there's 3 of them at once, yeah, I would probably just set up a bunch of booleans or something, like so. Can I make the camera go from ortho, another question, sorry. Can I make the camera go from ortho to perspective, making the Paper Mario effect, for example? Good question. I would think so. Why do I think you can't? I want to say no, but it seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to do. So in our pawn here, let's grab our camera and let's drag off and see. Let's select this component first. And projection mode. So let's pull off there and we'll say projection mode, get projection mode, set projection mode. Okay, good enough. And we'll just go ahead, I'm just going to put this off the 1 key here. And let's set in a flip-flop. So every time we press, let's go ahead and we'll set this to perspective. Let's go ahead and dupe that, and we'll set it to ortho. Now that looks fairly reasonable, like it should work. So we're live, I'm hitting 1. Ooh, magic. Sweet. Okay. All right, I guess that's good. I don't see any other questions going in here, so go ahead and please leave feedback on the forum announcement for this particular stream. Yeah, AI, very hot topic. Let's think about that one a little bit. And like I said, I'll try to come up with 3 or 4 maybe different examples of simple 2D style enemies and kind of do special case AI for that. You know, the Blackboard stuff that we've got is amazing. Ian and Alexander have done numerous sessions on live streams on that stuff. I think that might be a little bit too heavy for what I'm thinking of. You know, I'm thinking simple flying enemies, like I talked about the sort of hard shell enemy, those sorts of things. I think we can do sort of one-offs, you know, very simple behaviors within Blueprint itself for that. And then the other thing I'd like to address as well, out there on the forums, we've seen the Paper 2D threads out there. That's great stuff, awesome feedback. Yeah, Paper 2D has not had the benefit of a lot of development recently. We are aware, unfortunately, the developers that are working on Paper 2D have been allocated to other projects, high priority projects at the moment, so we've kind of had to shift focus. But we haven't forgotten about Paper 2D. I'm very passionate about 2D. I'm constantly trolling the developers of Paper 2D with stuff about it, so I know that they would like to get back to it as soon as possible. Okay, hold up, we've got more questions real quick. Another one. How do I make the animation sprite sheet change, especially in diagonal angles? So let's go back to our dude again. Where's my mouse? Where have you gone? There we go. Blueprint, BP dude. So up here in our movement. So this is where we're getting our movement input. All right, so we can move, we're adding input, we're updating animation, and that's basically looking to see where was all that goodness. This is the update animation function that we created. So we're looking to see whether we're running, jumping, standing, so on and so forth. We're determining which direction we're going. Okay, so this is what I wanted to get at. So we're looking at the value of the input coming in, whether it's positive or negative, and then we're comparing that to 0. And then depending on whether it is less than or greater than, we determine which direction we're facing. We're going to set the controller rotation. See that we're setting, we have a variable there that we're using to determine which direction we're going to go. Now, we could also, probably what you want to do for the different directions there is you would read that axis value for left and right, and you'd read the axis value for up and down, and then compare all that and then determine which direction you're actually going. And then you would just have a different set of animations that you would play. So in this case, a very simple case, we're only moving left and right. We would need to create animations for moving north, south, and northeast, southwest, and all the points, right? So it's just a matter of playing a different animation, really. It's just you have to determine which direction you're going first, and then figure out which animation to play accordingly, really. But let me reread the question. How do I make an animation sprite sheet change, especially in diagonal angles? So really, so what I talked about was how you would actually implement the different directions. If this is specifically about the authoring of the sprite sheet, it really doesn't matter where your frames are laid out or how you create them, because once you extract them, let's go back to our content browser character, they all come out into individual frames anyway. So it really doesn't matter how they're laid out here. I just happen to group them in a logical sense. So like here we have running, and here we have running and shooting. But we could have these things scrambled all over the place, because ultimately, like I said, they all just kind of get dumped out into the folder here. And then you're going to assemble animations with your flipbooks like so. So you'll be grabbing frames from all over the place. So hopefully those 2 answers get at what it is you were actually asking. Okay, all right, so yeah, I think at that point we'll call it quits, and hopefully it won't be another 6-7 months before we pick this back up again. And we'll try to tidy up the project and make something a little more cohesive, and have some materials ready for you guys ahead of time so you can download it and follow along. So yes, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the forums.